In my last video, I took a look at the microKORG synthesizer and commented on how good it was to be able to adjust options with proper dials rather than using a mouse and keyboard. Now I realise that a £300 synthesizer isn't within everyone's budget, so the Nano Series 2, also from Korg, offers a much more affordable alternative to adding control devices to your computer. Now there are 3 devices in the range. The Nano Control 2 gives level and pound controls for 8 channels, as well as transport control, that's play, stop and record, for the software as a whole. The Nano Key 2 is a 2-octave keyboard with basic mod and pitch bend controls. And finally, the Nano Pad 2 has 16 velocity sensitive control pads, as well as an XY touchpad. The Nano Key 2 costs £40, while the Nano Control 2 and the Nano Pad 2 cost £50 each. Now I'm reviewing these from the point of view of Ableton Live because that's what I use for my audio recording, but the Nano series is MIDI compliant, so it'll work with whatever software you happen to have installed. They all come with vouchers to download various music programs, as well as money off Ableton Live. The Nano Control 2 gives playback and record control over the whole set, as well as more detailed control for 8 tracks. This includes a slider for level, a pan dial and buttons for solo, mute and arming recording. Adjusting the slider automatically selects that track in live. The transport controls make a big difference to using live. In fact, they make this controller my pick of the bunch, as it's so much easier than remembering keyboard commands or trying to set recording with a mouse and then quickly picking up an instrument. It can also be used to set markers, which are great for moving around recordings with ease in the arrangement view. Unlike the other Nano controllers, the Nano Control 2 has different settings depending on what software you intend to use it with, and these are set by holding down a couple of buttons as you plug it in. Once you've done that, setup in Live is very easy. Just don't forget to plug it in before Live starts, which is what I did. The sliders move with just about the right amount of force. You won't move them by accident, but we found we could control one with each finger without any undue stress. The same goes for the panning knobs, although a centre detent would really be helpful, as normally you'd want tracks centred, at least to begin with. It's not possible to select multiple solos as you could with a real mixer. The solution is to come around to it the other way and mute the tracks you don't want. Now my only real criticism of this device is that it would be good to have some kind of marking on the tracks, or maybe a border with space to add your own numbers, as this would make it easier to find the one you want to use. If you're wondering why I'm not simply suggesting we number them 1 to 8, Korg so that you can connect several Nano Control 2 devices to one computer if 8 tracks isn't enough. The Nano Pad 2 has 16 velocity sensitive pads as well as an XY touchpad. It can be set to 4 different scenes, so there's a total range of 64 notes, more than enough for laying down drum tracks. There's a lot more to the Nano Pad 2 than drum beats though, thanks to the touch scale and the gate arpeggiator functions that worked with the touchpad. These produce some fun sounds and are best used with actual instruments. The touch scale lets you play using the touchpad. Select a key with a key range button and the keys listed by the pads. To give a better range of variation, you can also select different scales from major and minor to blues and pentatonic with some other interesting variations. The gate arpeggiator function adds in notes based on tempo, either the current one in the set or you can set it using the tap button. The Nano Key 2 is a 2-octave mini keyboard. The keys are somewhere between the pads on the Nano Pad and an ordinary keyboard. I'm going to leave the final judgment on this down to personal taste. Personally, I think I prefer proper keys, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with the way that this keyboard works. The keys are velocity sensitive, but there's no real travel to them as you might find with a traditional keyboard. The range of the keyboard can be extended by pressing the octave buttons, and they light up with different colours so you can see where you are in the range. Pressing both buttons together returns to the middle setting. There are also buttons for pitch bend as well as sustain and modulation. All 3 members of the Korg Nano family work really well at their respective duties. As I said, the Nano Control 2 would be top of my list, but I'd still seriously consider all 3 for my home studio.